everyone. Welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacey Lauren. Well, you guys, I'm excited. I just love how I get to meet people all different ways. And I met my next guest through Deidre from Capshow, who connected us together when we were talking about different collaborations. And then she introduced me to her director of partnerships and affiliates. And then that's how I got to meet Jennie Wright, who has now really been someone that I am like, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? She's able to teach people stuff regarding summits and just affiliate partnerships and collaborations and funnels and all of the things that a lot of people have a hard time with and feel painfully scared about. And she comes from it as a very approachable way and relatable way. And it's been amazing just to get to know her through this process. And so I'm excited because we're going to get to hear her story. So, hey, Jennie.
Hi, that was such a nice intro. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yay! I'm so excited to do this because I feel like the times that we've connected, I just feel like we're connecting.
Yeah, it goes beyond the whole how's your day, how's the weather?
Yeah. And I love getting to meet people that are literally, that's what you're doing, right? When I mentioned your role and what you're doing, even in your business, you're creating connections. And not only that, but you're nurturing these relationships that can expand into so many things.
Yeah, and that's hard when you're almost an introvert.
That's another thing we connect on, right? Because I'm an introvert and it's so much easier, I think, when you have a reason to have to connect. I realized that in an event that I was just at is normally I hide and I go to the bathroom in the beginning because I don't want to see people. But this time I went through the lens of collaborations and it opened me up because it gave me more of a reason to be able to do it, which then freed my mind.
Yeah, I have to push myself. And when I push myself to connect and do the networking thing or the meet the new people thing, it always works in my favor. It always ends up being definitely something that I'm so glad that I did, that I pushed myself in that way. So it's a conscious decision for me.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Well, I am excited. I would love to hear your story and just how you're doing what you're doing. And maybe if you have something that you struggled with that you had to come back from and how you got to where you are now, because I feel like you're just doing so much good, right? That there's a do the thing moment in there that I want to capture.
There's definitely a do the thing moment. I did not want to start this business. This wasn't what I was focused on. I had a corporate job where a lot of us start with a corporate job, right? So I was in a corporate job. I was working in gold mining here in Canada, which you don't hear about a lot. But I was doing gold mining. I was working in investor relations and communications. And the thing about gold mining is there's a lot of startups, there's a lot of buying and selling. It's very incestuous with its employees. People move from one company to another and they hopscotch around. Everybody knows each other, but there's a lot of startups. And if the mine doesn't come to fruition, then that startup, that mining company dissolves and so on. So you end up moving around quite a bit. And in my moving around quite a bit, one of them I had a lag. It's quite a bit of lag. It was more than 6 months. And I became a virtual assistant to fill the time and try and make some money because there's only so much time you can be unemployed. And the jobs and the roles that were coming up for me were not what I wanted. It was going into being almost like a secretary. And I didn't want that. I wanted to stay in communications and marketing and things like that. So I thought, okay, well, if I can't find it, I'm going to make it. So I became a virtual assistant and I started working on Fiverr. And when people work on Fiverr, you think it's $5 a gig. Well, actually, the person doing the gig makes about $3.44, quite honestly, thereabouts. And I started working on Fiverr and then I went from there and people started paying me more. You can up your price of your gigs eventually. And I started doing all this stuff for all this research for this thing called a virtual telesummit. And I never looked back from there. So I started researching telesummits and then somebody said, hey, let me show you what it actually is beyond the research. And then I started teaching people really right away. I started teaching people how to do summits. My first year, I think I had 30 clients and I was inundated. My poor partner was having to make spreadsheets to keep me straight because I was working 12-hour days and I had 18 summits at one time. And so he had spreadsheets to make sure everything got done. But that's his superpower. And it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But the real transformational moment for me was to realize that summits were not being done the right way. Mm-hmm. And that's totally not a pun on my last name. but they weren't being done properly. Everybody was so focused on the transactional piece of a summit, like, I will feature you, you will promote to your 5,000 or more list, we all win. But the problem was we weren't all winning. We were looking at it transactionally. We were saying, if you don't have a 5,000 person list, you can't be part of this. So it was very exclusionary. If you don't promote, you're looked down upon. The interviews were not substantive. They were really fluffy. And the viewer, the person who registered, was not getting the experience that I thought they should get. They were getting fluffy interviews without a lot of meat into it. And it wasn't niched in. People were casting a really wide net with these events. And so I was like, this isn't going to work as the internet grows. It was great back in 2013 when you could literally put the ugliest page in the world up and cast this huge wide net and not be niched in, and you'd have 5,000 people registered. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't do that as the internet, and everybody got a little bit more savvy. So I decided to make my own system for summits and change how they were being done. And I wanted to be at the forefront of that. And I did.
What I love about this so much is I never would have imagined meeting you now and getting to see the level that you're playing at, right? I just literally watched you do a challenge with all of these amazing, like Capshow, Ecamm, you had like, I don't even know, 100 people on there or something, yep. 80 people on there. And you're leading this challenge, and you started on Fiverr, right? Because this is what Do the Thing is. We always see the vision of where someone is and we're like, oh my gosh, I could never go there. And so someone's trying to go straight to that level, but they don't realize the reason why they can't get there is because they have to start with something simpler first, right? And you just went on someone else's platform and were at least able to do it in a no pressure way where you're charging $5, right? Making $2.50 for what you probably get paid $100 for thousands of dollars now for. And so yeah. It's amazing.
It was really humbling. It's a really humbling experience because even I had that FOMO when I started online, that there was people who were months, years ahead of me, and I wanted that lifestyle. And I actually fell for it. I got pressure sold into a group coaching course where the person said, if you just do this course, we promise you $100,000 in your first year. Mm. We promise you'll get a list of 5,000 plus people. I fell for the game. And luckily, I was able to financially extricate myself from that, but not a lot of people were. I happened to be Canadian. The person hosting it was American. They couldn't really hold me to the contract. I was able to figure a way out. But a lot of the people in that group couldn't. And a lot of those people ended up becoming my clients because they were really disillusioned with this whole system and this whole thing that just wasn't giving them the results because it wasn't focused enough. Mm-hmm. And the peculiar thing is that a lot of us in our beginning, we always look at the people ahead of us, the Amy Porterfields, the Marie Forleos, those people, and we want to be those people when what we should be doing is being ourselves and just surrounding ourselves with people that are either at the same level or slightly ahead of us that encourage us to move forward, but not so far that it feels unattainable. That's sort of what I've tried to do. And I haven't completely done it successfully. If people want to know the exact journey, I mean, there's been like, yay, I move forward. And then, oh crap, this happens. And then, yay, I move forward. And I've done collaboratives with people that didn't work out. I've worked with clients that are nightmare clients. I've worked with amazing people, but there's been this, and nobody's journey is without rocks and tumbles in this. I mean, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to develop a bit of a reset button that you can say, okay, well, whatever happens, I can always pull myself back to center. And I can always realize what my true thing is, right? Because you'll have those moments. Nobody's going to do a 360 review with you at the end of the year. Nobody's going to give you your bonus conversation. Nobody's going to tell you what you should be striving for the next year. You've got to do that to yourself.
And it's so true. I also noted you said, if I can't find it, I'm going to make it. I love that. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I was astonished when we were creating these online summits that the standard was 21 experts over 21 days. And prior to being an entrepreneur, I worked in a job where I had to use a lot of sort of measurement and statistics on the movement of people within a larger system. And what I mean by that is I had to look at how people were reacting when you put them in a box. Buy a membership. What do you do when you have a membership? Or what do you do when you go shopping? How much money do you spend? Where are you spending that money? And so I was applying that to summits, and I found really quickly The 21 experts over 21 days meant that only 5 people were actually getting their interviews heard. And that was the first 5 days. After that, it was immediate drop off. Nobody was sticking around for the rest of that time. And because it was transactional, people always put their friends and the people who were big speakers at the beginning of the summit. So those new people or the people who didn't have the big, beautiful list or that weren't their friends and buddies were at the end of the summit and got no exposure. So they didn't benefit. So this was a system that wasn't working for anybody but the big people and the person hosting for the most part. And I didn't like that. It didn't seem fair. So I wanted to create a system that everybody got exposure. And so I said, okay, we're not doing 21 experts over 21 days. And so I said, okay, we're going to do 24 experts over 3 days. We're going to split it up. Because what I found with 21 experts, inevitably 3 or 4 drop out. And then you're left with 18 or 17, and you don't get the numbers, you don't get the list build that you're hoping for. And there's a lot of disappointment with that. So if you have 24 experts, you end up around 21. Nowadays, I mean, that's grown. That was back in, 2015, 2016. Now we see summits with 34, 40 experts and so on. And that's been built on this system of a 3-day event or a 2-day event where everybody gets that focused exposure. And then my whole thing is nobody should be transactional with a summit. I take away list minimums. I take away promotional minimums and say, you promote what you can promote. Why don't you tell me what you can do? I'm not going to force it on you. Tell me what you can do. And whatever size audience you have is great. I take people into the summits that I do for myself and my clients that have 50 people on their list or 5,000. I don't care. Just promote, just share it. And everybody benefits that way.
Yeah, I love it because it's coming from this place of service and contribution. It's not coming from the, what can you give me? It's almost like, what can you do? And then everyone's going to benefit because it's not from this needy place.
Exactly. I have a sales background. If you go into a sales conversation feeling needy, you have to close the sale to put dinner on the table. People sense it. Mm-hmm. And then they sense that and not the thing that you want them to feel, which is their program, product, or service can solve the big problem that they have. They're more focused on, why is she being so pushy? Why is she pushing this so hard? And that becomes the thing they remember. Don't let that be the thing they remember about any of the stuff that you do. You should always be working to not be transactional. You should always be working in a point or a place from service and let people understand and realize just from being of service that the thing that you have will take them to that next step in whatever journey they're trying to achieve or problem they're trying to solve.
I'd love to hear more about, because you're literally the guru of collaborations, partnerships, affiliate, all the stuff that you're doing. What is some advice you have for people that are really wanting to expand their brands, their company, their community, whatever they're doing through that avenue?
A really great question. And there's 2 things that I would do. One is on the preparedness side, because I mean, if I could have been a Girl Scout, I would have been. And the other side is about the collaboration and meeting people side. So get all your ducks in a row first. Have your approved headshots that you would want to give people, have your various versions of your bio. I like to have 2 or 3 versions all in third person, long, short, and then one that's focused slightly different, rewritten differently for a different audience. I have 2 different bios that I specifically use. One is for more business-based CMO stuff that I do, and the other one is more on the speaker side, right? So there's a little bit different. So have your pictures, have your bio, have a lead magnet that people can enter their name and email and receive so that you can grow your list as a result of these collaborations. And then make sure that you provide and make it, I call it stupid simple, make it stupid simple for people to collaborate with you. Have a list of questions that people could ask you. Make it easy for the podcast host. Make it easy for anybody that wants to connect with you. So I put all of that in a Google Drive. And then I make sure that that link is on my website under, if you want to hire me, speak, blah, blah, blah. That's one side. That's the preparedness side. And then finding collaborations, that freaks people out, especially the introverts. Because you're like, I don't want to have to go into the big room with all the people to meet the people. So I find that the best way is I do a leapfrog method. I go one by one person, So, you know what, Stacey, it's been really great getting to know you. I don't know, do you have anybody that you're friends with or that maybe I should meet? Is there somebody that it's in your circle that I could potentially help or they could potentially help me, or it would be great for me to meet? Would you be open to making some sort of introduction? We all know somebody, right? It's not like one of those emails that goes, hey, introduce me to your friends and family so I can sell them my Amway product. It's, let me know who you know that I might be good to speak to, or just coffee chat. And that's always a good way to start. And then LinkedIn makes it easy for us. Connect with people, send them a DM and just ask them a little bit more about their business. Again, non-transactional. And people will naturally be open and they won't put those gates up of what does she want? What are they asking for?
Wow. And I think it comes back to just, I know that's where we connect so much, is that you're coming from a really relational and a servant way versus the spammy. I think I did this on your podcast. I was like, I'm with the spammy marketing that drives me crazy. It's really kind of figuring out how you can be of service to people and contribute to what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. You're totally right, Stacey. It is exactly from that. And I think you're also a really good example of that, because I think you work that way too. Just being in your group, being around you, getting your emails and stuff. I know that you operate that way. So I know that that's something you and I have in common, and you're making it easy for people to see the path that you've gone and to come along with you, which I think is just great.
Thank you. And how do you handle rejection? That comes up for a lot of people where they're reaching out or talking to someone. How do you get it to feel where it doesn't feel as icky when someone isn't interested in collaborating with you?
I always say it isn't about me. Although in some places, I mean, that's really hard. Ego is really hard because you do think it's about you. What is it about me? Did they not like the clothing I was wearing on the call? I actually had somebody who got really ticked off with me because I got on a call with them and they were going to hire me. I know it wasn't collaboration, but it was a hire sales call. And because I had a stuffed animal in the background behind me, they actually said, I can't hire you because you have a stuffed animal and that's not professional. That kind of freaked. I felt really, I was like, wow, okay, am I that whatever, insert word here, that somebody wouldn't want to hire me? So something that my manager who taught me sales got me to do was a reset button, right? So if you remember correctly, if everybody thinks about the program, product, or service, or what it is that they do, at the core of that, you really believe in what it is. You think you can put good in the world. You think you can help people and support and serve. And when you meet somebody new and they make you feel small, or they make you feel little, or they don't want to collaborate with you, that's a them thing. Always think about your core, I guess, vision or feeling or how you feel about yourself. I mean, they don't want to. It's not a fit for them, but there's so many other people out there. And I think with myself, I had low self-esteem. And so if somebody wanted to collaborate with me, to me, it felt like somebody wanted to be my friend. And I jumped at somebody wanting to be my friend. And it didn't always work out because I let people go over me a little bit because I'm technically savvy. A lot of people are like, why don't you handle all the tech? And I'll just do the front-facing fun part. And I get left with all of the tech. And then I feel resentment in someone. So as I've gotten older and I've been through the fire a couple times, I no longer do that. I make sure that when I'm going to look at collaborating with somebody, that it's really upfront, my expectations or their expectations. And then I also run a lot of this stuff, by the way, and this is really good if you have a sounding board. So my partner is my complete sounding board. I'll be like, hey, this person wants to partnership with me in some way, shape, or form. What do you think? And I'll give him all the details and have him be a little bit of that moral compass a little bit as to if it's a fit, because I mean, he's seen all the stuff. And so he knows very, very well. But it's important to me, if you're looking to collaborate with people and they don't want to collaborate with you, that you find the way to reset and realize it's not about you.
I'd love to hear what's kind of your favorite thing that you love to do. What's the thing that really, when you're doing it, you're like, oh, if I could just do this all day, that would be the thing that I would do.
Build marketing strategies. Honestly, I love seeing the nitty-gritty of somebody's business, the inner workings. And I see all the little opportunities. I'm like, if you just did this,
I love that.
This would change. If you did this, that would change. I'm really good at looking at that and I love doing it. I got hired by a client last week. They hired me to set up a webinar for them. And so they gave me access to their backend CRM to set up the form for this webinar. And of course, being me, they gave me access and I asked them, I said, do you mind if I take a look around? They said, yeah, go for it. So I took a look around and I noticed that they didn't have any systems or processes for once they did have registrants. They didn't have follow-up sequences. They didn't have a sales call set up and so on and so forth. That's a massive opportunity. And if your product is $67, throw that on repeat to like 150 people. That's money, right? This person's product is a $6,000 product. So times that by 150 and tell me that you're not leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. So yeah, every day strategy, finding out where people have the loopholes or the opportunities. I'd do it all day long.
Isn't it fun when you know what you love to do and it's your zone of genius and it's also the thing you get paid for?
I am very lucky to have done that. I mean, it didn't start out that way because yes, I was on Fiverr and yes, I did the summits, but I also had to take a whole bunch of jobs that were not in my zone of genius and do those a little bit too, because you got to put money in the bank and food on the table. But now being able to do exactly what I want with people that kind of see my abilities. I don't want to say zone of genius. That just feels, my ego says don't say that. So, so the things that I'm good at and have them pay me for it. Okay. All day long.
What would you say to someone that has the corporate job and they're like, oh, aching to take the step and do something on the entrepreneur world? How do you help them just kind of take a step?
That's different for everybody. But I will say that the plan that you have to leave corporate is never the plan that actually happens when you leave corporate. In my personal opinion, you're never going to have the 2 years of salary in the bank. You're never going to have your foolproof plan. So I did actually help a guy leave corporate about 3 years ago. He was working in a corporate job. He didn't want to do it anymore. And when he came to me, he said, I no longer want to work with this type of client. I never want to do that again. I'm completely burnt out. Don't want to touch them. And I said, well, who do you want to work with? He goes, I want to work with women in this certain niche and I want to do this. And we tried it and he was miserable, absolutely miserable. And this is the plan that he hatched before he left. And so after working with this person for a while, I'm like, you need to not do this. You need to actually work with the exact same group you were working with in corporate, but at a different level and on your own, because you're really, really good at it. You're just burnt out. You don't want to not work with them. You just shouldn't be in that corporate environment. So like I said, when you leave corporate, it's not exactly how you think it'll be. I tell people that there's a mourning period and you need a couple, if you can make it happen, you're going to need a week or two to kind of mourn the fact that you're no longer going to the office or you're no longer on those Zoom calls or whatever it is, and that you have this new life, right? And then financially, put aside as much money as you can. That's always a great idea, especially when you're starting with these businesses. But also don't wait too long. I think you can wait too long. I think you can wait for it to be completely perfect. But the one thing that I will say is start lead gen before you leave your corporate job. Start lead gen as soon as you leave your corporate job. Don't wait. And a lot of people wait. They're like, oh, I got to get a website first, or I've got to do this or that. Get lead gen going. You don't need a 5-page website from day one. You need a lead magnet. And on that lead magnet landing page, you can make it look like a website. You can put your bio. You can put a link to book a call with you. You can put a contact form. You can have a 1-pager and just put a menu at the top that if you click it, it goes to those points and it looks like a website. But just have something where people can connect with you, enter your name and email and receive X, and do that from day one.
What about someone that is maybe even coming to you or not coming to you and they're ready to up-level their marketing system and they want someone to come in and help them? What would you say they get from just taking another look at what they're doing?
It's all the nooks and crannies. So it's filling all the holes and closing all the gaps. Everybody has gaps in their business, something that they're not doing, that if they did, it would mean a percentage point or a couple of percentage points in sales or lead gen or conversion. And so that could easily be, what I recommend is this. I recommend an audit. And it is a very extensive audit. It's an audit of your marketing. It's an audit of your branding. It's an audit of your niche. You need to look at all these different things. And I'm not a niche expert. I know somebody who is, but I'm a marketing person. I can look at all the marketing side and I can tell you that something's off on the niche side, but I will send you that. I can tell you that your website needs work and I can find you the person because I'm a connector, right? But with the marketing strategy, if you want to up level, it really gets systematic. It really turns into something where you're going to do X amount of larger events in a year. You're going to sell this program, product, or service. And it becomes not formulaic because that gets boring. But you start using and repeating the things that work. And the up level is adding incremental changes or incremental additions that add more value to your potential customer and also display the fact that you are the expert in your field. So you're adding in the social proof, or your sales page gets an uplift, or you're able to have better copy and so on. So it's these incremental little things that add up to a grander picture that create additional sales.
Okay, Jennie, you ready?
Sure.
What is your number one piece of advice for people on doing the thing?
Stop getting in your head about it. As an introvert or anybody, I would tell them it's not about you. So stop thinking that everything has to be perfect or it has to be about you. You have a gift. Everybody has the gift, whatever it is, and people need it. And by not giving it to them, this is my motivational speech, by not letting them get the thing that you need or that you have, you're robbing them of that fix, that problem solve, that thing that they need to get that only you can give. And I get people, and this is really important, people are like, well, there's thousands of people who do exactly what I do. No, there isn't. There's only one of you, and you're the only one who does it exactly how you do it. I'm not the only one who does summits or CMO or marketing strategy, but nobody does it exactly as I do. And so if you want to do the thing, then just start doing the thing. I know that you love the messy approach. That makes my very organized brain have problems, but it's also true. Like I push myself to do it even if it's a little bit messy. I want to over-organize, but I'll do it a little bit messy. Just start the thing and stop letting yourself get in your own way.
Yeah, it's just so much. I mentioned the Fiverr thing, and that is really just coming up because I feel like it gave you this safe space to start, right? And it's having whoever is listening and you're stuck in your head, you have to just say, what can I do to take that step, right? And whatever that is, then just do that and then see how you feel and then take the next step.
Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be a VA. I didn't want to be a VA at all, but I did it because it was a stepping stone to the thing I wanted. I actually started on Fiverr. I was making a pittance compared to what I was making in corporate, okay? But it was a great place to start. It was a great place to meet people. And it was a great way to start getting those first clients who would then help me get those other clients out of referrals and so on. And my business built out of referrals. I think my first year in business was, honestly, the amount of income I made was ridiculously small. But I think within 3 years, we were at 6 figures, right? That was hard graft. It really was. But a lot of it was referral and a lot of it was because I just pursued it. I didn't stop. And that meant taking some jobs that I probably wasn't completely qualified to do, quite honestly, and that I wouldn't want to do, including being the operator on a bilingual phone line. So when you hear those presentations, if somebody calls in with questions to ask people, I was that voice. So I was doing that just to try and make some extra money.
Amazing. Oh, can I ask you your advice on something? Oh, good.
Yeah.
This is for me. So everyone's going to listen in. This is how I do the thing, just so you know. So I have my new group, my new community, which is a collaboration network. And I'd love your guidance on if you have any thoughts on what could make it really special. So I have this container. Right now, I think there's 300 people in there. So I've already kind of done the 100 founding member concept, and now I'm expanding it. And I already did a hot seat with some of my members, which is really fun. And just curious if you have any other thoughts on really creating a fun space for people.
Mm-hmm. It's through empowerment. So you have these 300 people and there's a various amount of skills in there. Mm-hmm. I would start now cultivating the skills of the people in the group to help support the rest of the group and also you. And it also gives them a voice, right? So if that means that you're doing regular networking events and a couple of those people help support in making that event, or somebody wants to host a regular something or other in that group, motivational Tuesdays, I don't know, then that person is empowered, but they're also supporting the rest of the group, right? They're creating that fun sort of space and getting something that is really helpful for them to kind of get their message out. And also it plays into your dare stuff as well as just doing the thing. So I would leverage what you have within those people and the relationships, and I would start taking them a bit deeper with everybody and asking people to do something like that. And also, your dares create intimacy, right?
Ooh,
Just by oh yeah, they do.
I love that.
So you're creating a version of digital intimacy with complete strangers in a Facebook group. So what other ways can you create that digital intimacy? And we're talking platonic here, okay, guys? But what other ways can you create that digital intimacy with people so that they feel that comfortability to then mastermind with each other, to then network with each other, to then open up beyond what can you do for me, what can I do for you stage? And that's where I would want to go.
Wow. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish I asked you?
Oh, you're really thorough. I just hope that I was helpful.
I mean, I'm literally taking so many clips. I'm like, that was gold. I have so many ideas percolating in my mind. It was so helpful. I mean, from so many levels, from the thing that just happened where you're helping me specifically with something that is on my heart and I haven't had time to think about because I just had my program I finished launching. So I'm really excited because you gave me a starting point for this community now that I'm excited about. And I think you also really opened the door for people to see that there's this world, right, of where you want to go. And you, for most of us, we can't start all the way at the end. We got to start in the beginning to be able to get there and those little steps that we take. And I just feel like you really displayed that in a really beautiful way. And then also how you've been walking through, you didn't say the fear, but walking through your own blocks that have...
Oh, there's so much fear. There's so much fear. Absolutely. There's so much fear. I have, ever since the pandemic, I mean, with transparency, I have a lot more anxiety than I used to. So there's a lot more fear and trepidation about doing something new and different. And I just got to jump in. I mean, I want to run a program. Right now, at the moment that we're recording this, I'm in the midst of promoting a bundle that I'm doing that you're part of. And afterwards, I want to run a program. And I'm hemming and hawing, or I have been, but not so much today. But I was hemming and hawing, like, will people actually want it? Are they going to want to buy from me? Are they going to want me to lead them through this process? And so even though I've been doing this for, 11, 12 years, that I still have those moments of complete and utter, am I good enough? And it doesn't go away. It's just your self-talk gets better.
Yeah. I just love how you're able to speak the way that what comes up for you, and then also that you're coming from a place of relationships and contribution. So yeah, I'm excited to see what fun things we can do. Thank you so much for coming on. Please share with everyone how they can learn about you and follow along with your journey.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate having the chat and really valuing the relationship that you and I are building, because I am about relationships. So if anybody wants to get to know a little bit more about me, go to jenniewright.com. You'll see lots of resources there. You'll see I have a podcast as well if you want to check it out. It's called Acquire. And then the best way to get in touch with me is just DM me. Instagram, LinkedIn, best places you can go and connect with me there. Give me a follow, however you want to connect. And let me know if there's anything I can do to help and support.
Thank you so much. And thanks you guys for joining, and do the thing. Don't wait for opportunity. Create it. And hey guys, have you checked out my Facebook group yet? Go to dothethingcommunity.com. And my new community is dothethingcollaboration.com.